We're looking at this year, because we have such a severely limited water supply, is coming up with several plans to try to decrease our daily demand on water and consequently make the water stretch, or our limited supply stretch, as long as possible. Here we're looking at really only having about 48% of our full storage available. And normally that's more than sufficient to get us through the second half of the season after we've passed our peak irrigation period, and we're just finishing up the potatoes and beets and the third cut of hay. This year, because we have such a severely limited natural flow amount, or volume that's running out probably today or possibly tomorrow, that means that we have to get through our peak irrigation period on our storage water. So not only do we have a limited supply, we're going to be using more of that supply at the beginning of our storage draw than we normally would. Consequently, we have to figure out a way to make the water stretch. And in 2003, which was our shortest water supply in the history of the company, well, not in the history of the company, but our shortest water supply since the reservoirs were put in. We decided that we needed to do something drastic there at the end of the season in order to stretch our water out for harvest, because we'd already shut off for 20 days. So what we did then is we actually put a delivery cap by reach of the canal, what we call a ride. And then we only allowed the ditch rider for each of those rides to deliver that much water and no more. And it required his shareholders and water users on his ride go into rotation. So I modernized that concept a little bit to match our needs throughout most of the season, through peak irrigation and through the tail end of the season. And it came up with a plan whereby we would reduce our average daily deliveries by 40%. By decreasing those average daily deliveries by 40%, that should allow us to stretch our water to the middle of September. Originally, I had also estimated that we'd be running out of natural flow on June 14th. And we've been lucky. We made it another 7 days beyond that. So I think that that's going to help us on the other end. Because our diversions are less in September than they are in June and July, each day of natural flow in June and July gets us about a day and a third to a day and a half of irrigation in September. One of the other things that we're doing is we're trying to tightly control our return spills. We're able to do that because of the level of automation we have on our system. It makes it really difficult to run a gravity-fed system that was designed to spill water at the end without any spill. We lose our flexibility day to day. We don't have any extra water that we can deliver when the demand comes up. But fortunately, that shouldn't be such a problem this year, because I'm essentially setting the demand. So we'll be diverting to meet a set demand rather than diverting to meet the daily changes in demands that we normally see. Divided our system up into rides and determined the percentage of average delivery that each of those rides get when we're meeting demand. I then use those percentages to determine a daily cap of delivery for that ride, and then I just knock 40% off the top of that. So the ditch rider and his water users will have to figure out a way that they can rotate everybody through so they can get a complete watering. In addition, we put a 6-day irrigation limit on all head gates. So that means as a water user, when he gets to his 6th day of watering, his head gate will be shut off, and the next water user in line, the next person waiting for water, will get that water. It's going to be tough on my water users as well, because not only are we limiting delivery per ride of the canal on a daily basis, they also have a lot less water to make it through the end of the season. In its simplest terms, the state tells me how much water we have available in storage. I divide that by the number of shares in the company, and then subtract for system loss and evaporation loss, and then I allocate that water proportionally to the shareholders. So we have half of the water that we would normally use to get through the last half of the season. But this year we have to take that half of the water that we would normally use for the last half of the season and make it stretch for 60% of our season.